wonderful reading. I have been delegated to introduce the wonderful Melissa Buckheit, who's next in line.
Trace, use the mic.
Hello. Good. Now I can be heard over the weird Lord of the Rings music next door. Makes me want to read my Trump poems later.
Read them.
Melissa Buckheit is a queer poet and translator, activist, dancer and choreographer, photographer, English lecturer, and orthopedic massage therapist. She is probably the only one who's all of those things. She's the author of Noctilucent, the Shearsman Books 2012, and 2 chapbooks, Dulcet You from Dancing Girl Press and Arc from The Drunken Boat. Her poems, translations, photography, essays, critical interviews, and reviews have appeared in Fives. They've appeared in a lot of great places. Buckheit translates poet Yulita Iliopoulou, I apologize if I mispronounced that, from modern Greek, and holds an MFA from Naropa University and a BA from Brandeis University. Eleni Sikelianos has said of Melissa's first book, Noctilucent, that its poems are, quote, radically open and in love, as if words constellated an amorous ocean licking after the desert, or a desert creeping toward its beloved and necessary water. Melissa is one of the most vivid, energetic, wise, elaborately charismatic poets I've ever had the privilege to meet and befriend. She's an entire maximal living lyric in and of herself already, and now we have the privilege of hearing her words on the page too. Please welcome Melissa Buckheit.
I don't think I can top that. Well, thank you. I feel like I shouldn't even bother reading after that. Thank you for that lovely introduction, Trace. I'm terrible at introductions, so I'm always honored when someone writes one for me. So, meaning I can write them, but I always feel like, who wants to hear me when you can hear who the writer themselves? So I'm just going to read a few poems from my first book, which came out in 2012 in the United Kingdom and internationally. And see, you're right, it's interesting with the mic. Just silence for a moment while I find the page. You were smart, you used those little sticky notes.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with those. I pass them in Staples and they just say, don't buy me. Also, folks, if you want water, there's some over here, okay? I should have told you that, Aaron. I'm sorry. Noctilucent. In speaking of Kianos, cyano blue, a dark blue mineral in designations of certain bluish salts and minerals, of cyanide, cyanic, the blueness of skin, cyan, the blueness of sky, whose greenish blue is like water breathed in, supplants air, my cyanosis, condition in which the skin appears blue from no oxygen in the blood. Blue, the blue of painted Greek boats, blue mercury light, alive with the kindling of moss, shy, shining in the night, little Noctilucent, not marred in the bioluminescence, night glow, if bugs, making marine phosphorescence, like love. Latin moon lantern, Japanese moon lantern, strong orange for the night walk to a lover's door, preceding electric blue lights of the city from space. Nights are illuminated by noctilucent clouds, waves, beaches, and celestial orbs, migrations of aquatic plants whose cyan flight is mutable change and light. Dark the homes we make glowing in other bodies, our lovers asleep inside us. Suffering. This isn't the answer. The answer is my hand on the table saying what we thought privacy was, on your forehead cupping the temple where the fine hairs begin. What origin begins with hair, the tenderest movement out, ends with bodies lining graves, an inability to pronounce the phonemes of your now foreign language. The language itself an answer. The woman isn't answering the phone. The woman isn't answering anyone. The woman isn't. The woman is chemically altering from the moment she is ignited. The woman is a girl, my palm across your temple, your eyes which follow me as I remove it. Tied to a tree isn't the answer. Tied to the back of a truck isn't the answer as it moves over miles. Isn't the cold hospital room. Isn't you're not my daughter anymore and you'll never be my son. This answer is evolving. This poem isn't. Recall to me the names inscribed on sheets. Almost. Your palm as it cups my temple, covering the left eye, the language itself. This isn't a wave as it takes a whole island, then buries the island beneath the island. Datura. I don't know if anyone knows what datura is, but it's a lovely poisonous flower that blooms at night. So don't eat it. You'll not survive. Why you would, I don't know, but it's very beautiful. When I was in graduate school in Boulder, Colorado, I would travel to this area of campus just to go visit the datura while it bloomed at night next to the library. But everyone there is weird like that, just wandering around at night doing bouldery things, No one thinks it's odd out here. What is that person doing? Just communing with the datura. Okay. It's true. I like flowers more than animals and humans sometimes, but humans are good too. So. Datura. A flower not diurnal, almost poisonous, vivid in the half-dark of opposing particles. A cushion with a light behind it, your silhouette below my limbs as sleep breaks away. I call you to the corner of the room where the shelf of sea begins mid-air. This is a little series called Demotics, which is like the common language, demotic. It's a little elusive, so it's an ironic title. Quanta surpassed by penumbra, driven mad the sea, its repeated horizon steering straight down the canyon, coral reef, Sinita who blooms at night, monitor of. Akatio curvature, where have you gone? My memory is an emission, photograph, rapid ball of light, her skull lasting. A yellow glow of sodium means atoms are relaxing. The jackrabbit allows a fear of sand in bed. Time is transferable and small, could become a tremor, a length of cloud with another. Jelly-like, the pelvis appears among deep-sea vent, combing the water for our symbolon. Conifer and magnolia consumed before desiccation in a mud bed. Cousin to the diatome are dimorphic. We all live at the river. The moon reduces to tides. Dune field to which we may attach a quay. Oscillation for boat or the deserts. All indivisible energy exists. Raga, minimal amount of music cut up to its ecliptic pleasure. As the neutrino flies constantly through my flesh, rearrange, surrender. Pheromone, the honeybee signals danger from. A kiss after fight or flight, my anabasis. Kelp forests and olive green limpets, petrel, pelagic, atoll, lipstick, pixie, fairy puke, night, aquafire. Water is why the epiphytes or guest plants page chartreuse over stones, cedar, handrails. I hold on for dear life, marriage. The rarer just offshore arroyo, as Paraloon swallows sea level, sock eyeless salmon dead or diverted in sleep. What you don't know, quiet underneath. Too wet for trees, fungi, people, epiphyte. Keep my sexless sex safe. Humans hate darkness. To inspire people about the deep ocean, we had to light it. Was a boundary as he shut off the lamp, blurred my flagellum. It's an odd poem. And then I finished a new manuscript a couple of years ago. It was a 10-year book, because that's how long it takes me to write a book. It's disastrously long, so we'll see if anyone ever sees it in the light of day, but I'm going to read a few poems from it that have appeared out in the world. Human Volition. So it begins again, this memory, a gas from protoplasm into daylight. The emptiness we imagine beyond is not that far or near. The emptiness, me or you, skin or bone, tongue, tail, hide. The tide was the first before us. Unknown land in water, emptiness, obliteration, fear, our consuming senses, then sky. We think we are perfect. We are not. Perhaps we ask too much. Little animals, tooth and claw, lucky, short-sighted, we cry. Still, hand in hand, we traverse it. Don't forget the creep across land in the failing light, the small stillness of wind. Oh, remember how new still, how a birth, the blood and wet crowning us, a trembling of sex or touch, the first our hearts gave sway to another. On the horizon we see grasses first, then trees, home. Narrative. I'm breathing into this microphone. Across the wide sea I came, and you did not recognize me for what I appeared to be. The rust and gray water with its broken remnants of seaweed rocking, slapping against the side of many pilings anchored in the vast and realist Atlantic, which never lied to a soul who drowned in its waves or pretended to be anything other than it was, barren at times, welcoming, others, a challenge to the people who settled there. Dismal everyone thinks we are, like Emily Dickinson supposedly was, apparently a depressed character, and apparently solitary too. The weather will do that to anyone. Inside the vast sea, I existed for centuries, until I came to be born and landed on a narrow expanse of island, as after a long trip. We were waiting to come to America, my parents and I, and so the sea was our home, lodging broken remnants of our ancestors' suffering in its cold depth, like jagged rock loosed from the shore, held on our backs, and swallowed by liquid sand with the tides. We slept there a while, hoping we had left luggage or broken furniture behind, useless to carry further ashore. We came up through the Atlantic, but we were changed and could no longer speak. We had to learn language again. Our sounds were rough and harsh to unfamiliar ears, but with each other intimately. We were shyly gentle, our voices soft like honey. I'll just read two more. You get a choice. Antithetical monologue or essay, Desert is the Ocean. Who votes for antithetical monologue? Ooh, we have 3. 4? Who votes for the other one? Wow, it's like a wave shot. Okay. 2, it's good because the antithetical monologue, I'm like screaming at you. It's like one of those like monologue. My tortured parents poems, you know, that's like a monologue. That's why it's called that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Essay. Good. What was that?
That sounds good.
Oh, well, I could end with it and I'll never come back. Essay. I want to talk to them. Desert is the ocean. Now, I lived in Tucson for almost 15 years, and it's like one of my homes, so I miss it, even though I love it out here. So there's a little bit of Tucson in this book everywhere. So. There's sand everywhere. You think there won't be because it's not the Sahara, the desert you told about, but there is. Everything is scooped out sand where there was once ocean. Everything is sand because it was once ocean. You live in a basin like the white ceramic bowl accompanying a picture on Emily Dickinson's table beside her bed in Amherst. For washing, the cold, early, reverse twilight of New England mornings. Something to hold water, to collect everything in the palm of the hand. All the animals and people, all the plants and insects, and all the dead and desiccated remains of these things. In our memory, always this echo of ocean. Everything leaves behind waves, wavelengths, particles. The left behind of the ocean is the oscillation of emptiness through air. What was once full, abundant, teeming is now the inverse. How the desert is full through adversity, how we hear everything that lives adapts to geologic time and tectonic drift and the ages. The sun is a jewel in a wrathful Tibetan deity. It asks of you no more and no less than you can absolutely take. It is an edge, the memory of contradiction, of trans, of such recent liminality. In the sodden rot of wood and dark earth and the water of Maine to Massachusetts to New York, every dead bone and brush, hut, and word is lodged in geologic time, suffocating and beautifully silent beneath the humming roots of trees, the deciduous and the eternal pine dropping their skin needles into sleep. In the desert basin, nothing is solid. With enough wind and rain, all can be revealed, buried alive in the sand, rendered exact and unchanged in the dry heat of the sun. From your picture window, you imagine only that your home was once seafloor, that the minerals and the smell of the dry wash and the desert between rains is the bounty of the sea, nearly everything needed to grow life again, but changed. And is there an island here? Are we island or sea? Are we desert or sand? Now, what is island was once underwater atoll, hidden to the eye. And what is desert was salt lip, ocean, the lips swelling to fill and swallow. Don't think about it too much. These things happen. People left one island for another unremarkable island. People were hungry. They wanted to leave their families or join them. They wanted to leave their homes in exile or not. They were lonely and became lonely, again, longing for the ocean or the island or their sister, their mother, their father. Don't be confused. People lost their language and in exile found it again or surrendered to forgetting. There's sand everywhere you think there won't be because you don't recognize the place. The words to name it have shifted like earth eating itself. A movement across and between an adjacent land and the people and memory. What was wet became dry, each thing holding within itself its inverse. They hear voices in the falling light. Leave home and return to it in another country. Mother or father or lover, each island for another. And I'll just end with one more poem. Hopefully not too much. Okay, well, I'll read the other one I mentioned, but I apologize for those people who are really close to me. This is one of the first poems I wrote when I started writing this book, so it was quite a while ago. And there's always that moment where you start to find out things about your family and you're like processing the stew of the knowledge, trying to negotiate it. So that's partly this poem. So if I shock anyone, I apologize. I'm kind of shocking at times. Antithetical monologue. This isn't a stage upon which my dead and past relatives play the parts of assholes and drunks, child molesters and wife beaters, dragging themselves through me like ghosts pass through people, steam from a New York City sewer grate, the grass which refuses to grow around some graves, their energy plagued and plaguing me in intermittent moments where my body and mind try to grasp our cleave relationship. This is the poem that begins and begins again, where I drive them from me like the demons I don't believe in. Weird, marbled, frescoed, half animal, half beast, stabbed with the arrows of avenging angels in Rome. Those half humans always have their eyes rolled back in a sort of pain or terror or death. Medieval saints do too, a collective response to the presence of God. There is no religious anguish, another sacrament, as devotion to Mary and the promise of purity of soul should have fed the starving of air, the babies nourished on a new milk. The milk was air, the milk passed through their hands like an invisible smoke. The purses and pockets of the rich, of Catholic priests and government ministers weighed down the air, so the air was empty. A belly of air, my great-grandparents and grandparents exhausted in their own perfect suffering, their mortification of flesh, their terror and pain and death, their heavy hands on their children's backs, their heavy tears of salt, their echoes and shadows tracking around the corners of city buildings and the glowing arcs of street lamps at night, their gibberish, their endless lament, their curses, and they cursed. I'm alone. They almost seem dead to me. Thank you.